Welcome to Bread, welcome back. I want to just introduce our guest, who is here to help us reimagine what is possible. So many of you know her already, so I don't know if I can give you anything new on her. She's pretty well known, but I'll try. She's somebody who understands the power of a question to ignite game-changing ideas. So this year, Morgan, right now at 26, was named one of Forbes 30 Under 30. She has been called a digital activist by Cadillac, who selected her for their Daring Origin Stories, which features the next generation of individuals who are daring to drive the world forward. We are excited to have Morgan Debaun here, where she will be calling upon the power of inquiry from us as audience members, as she leads us through a discussion tonight on how we can all drive the world forward with our unique strengths and stories. So please join me in welcoming Morgan Debaun. And we're gonna do a totally awkward break bread, which is, we do it every time. Nobody eats the bread, but it's more traditional. Yeah. All right, so we're just gonna break bread.
They asked me what song I wanted to play. What's up, guys? Oh, this is loud. So excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and great intro. So today, well, first, I didn't get the hands. How many of you, this is your first event? Okay, so a lot of you, cool. So Julian and Benoni are friends of mine, so they're a tough act to follow. So I'm Morgan, CEO of Blavity, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what I'm working on, but more importantly, I want to talk to you guys about what you're working on and figure out how we can work together. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey, answer any questions you have. I'm an open book. I ask that you don't tweet financials if you ask financial questions, but I'm happy to share stuff with you because I think too often as entrepreneurs we keep those things to ourselves and then we don't share that information, which will help us grow, especially in the Black community where a lot of us are doing things for the first time. Let me start a little bit and talk about where I came from, right? So I'm from St. Louis, Midwestern girl, went to Washington University in St. Louis, didn't leave for college. And I started off wanting to change the world, right? And to do that, I thought I was going to be in education. So I was an education major, got into classrooms, and quickly realized that some of the best teachers and the best students were limited by the government. Federal regulations, funding, state regulations, laws, etc. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to be a politician. So switched my major, political science, ran for student body president as a sophomore and won, was class president, all that good stuff. Got into some local elections, quickly realized you needed some money, right? It's heavily influenced by business, heavily influenced by donations, foundations, and then I also learned that the system is rigged against Black and brown people, right? So all right, we're gonna start a startup. Right? So you're in college, and when you start a company, or most entrepreneurs are solving problems for themselves, right? So the problem that we were solving in college was meal points. So when you are a sophomore, junior, senior, you run out of meal points pretty quickly because you're cheap, right? So at the end of the semester, you're like, oh snap, where the freshmen at with the meal plans, right? And at WashU, we had a lot of student groups. Lots of funding in our student groups. And because I was in the student government, I knew where all the money was going, right? So what we did was we created a app for people to find events that had free food, right? So, exactly. It was great for the student groups, because then they got new people. It was great for us, because we got to eat. And you didn't waste as much food, right? So that was the idea. Great idea. It could still be $1 billion idea, I think. I'm biased. But it didn't work because we spent so much time arguing amongst ourselves. There's 4 founders. Lots of startups fail, and ours was definitely one of them. We never even launched, and it was beautiful, but we just couldn't. We was just bickering too much. So, but I loved it. I loved the idea of like creating something, building it, testing it. We did, user testing, because we were in school, so we were really following the process, right? We built mock-ups and did testing, right? So after that, I was like, all right, I like this tech thing. I like this failing quickly. I like building things. I like learning from my mistakes. So I joined a startup. It's an ed tech startup that I don't think it exists anymore. It's called Backpack TV. But basically the premise of that startup was that when you're going home from class and you're in your textbook and you're like, what was that? How do I learn this again? Because I wasn't paying attention in class. You can look in your textbook and look on the website and it'll say, here are the videos that you can watch to learn that concept if you were not paying attention. Great idea. It was this white guy who was a millionaire, multi-millionaire, and he was self-funded. And in St. Louis, St. Louis wasn't really like tech hub, right? So it was cool that I had this experience and I stayed there all my senior year and he became a mentor of mine. And so I was like, Joe, what's up? Like, what should I do? It was summer before senior year. What should I do? How should I be in the tech world? How can I start a business? How can I get into this life? I'm from St. Louis, I know I need to leave. Where do I need to go, right? And we can talk about cities and communities and stuff too, because I'm in Boston, so we can definitely talk about that. He was like, you should go to Singapore, because Singapore is popping, right? Like, so when you look at tech hubs of the world, Singapore, China, that's the fastest growing tech industry, right? And I was like, whoa, Joe. Singapore, like I'm from St. Louis, that's not gonna happen, but I'll go to California. I'll go to Palo Alto, I'll go to Mountain View. My brother was already out there, and so that was my leap of faith. So I started looking at companies that, or I started looking at products that I loved. One of them was Mint, and I was like, who owns Mint? Intuit owns Mint. So I applied, totally like cold emails, right? Like none of these companies recruited at Washington University. So I applied, got the interview, flew out to San Francisco. It's like, yeah, I'm in the tech company, got the offer. So that's how I made my transition into technology. That's how I got to the Bay Area. But while I was there, so I moved, fast forward senior year. Now I'm in Mountain View, California. And if you know anything about Mountain View, California, it's all Asian and white, right? And I'm from St. Louis. So, and I never left St. Louis, right? I mean, I traveled and stuff, but like not home. So I was like, uh-oh, what is this? Like, where are my people? I didn't have any friends. And it was the first time I felt lonely. I didn't know what lonely felt like. And it was really sad. I moved to DC on an assignment just so that I could be around faces that were familiar to me. And after my assignment in DC, I moved back to San Francisco. And I worked at a startup that Intuit had bought previously. You guys still with me? You following the story? Okay, cool. Because I know I'm weaving through the country now. So I'm back in San Francisco. There's more black people in San Francisco because you're close to Oakland, so I'm like feeling okay. But I'm at this startup. So it's a startup that Intuit had bought. They brought me on because I was at strategy and BD at that point, and so I was helping the company transition into Intuit. And so here I am, a BD woman, and in this company, BD was pretty high up because it was a sales organization. So there was like hundreds and hundreds of salespeople, and then like me and a few other BD people. So I was sitting on the sales floor, and here I am with my hair and me, and I'm just like very energetic and stuff, and it's like all white salespeople and me. And so they were like, they didn't know what to do with me because I also just kind of came on the scene, right? And they were being integrated into this company, and I represented the company, and they were the startup, right? And so they would do stuff like have beer pong and kegs in the office. It was really what you think of when you think of startups in Silicon Valley. Like, it was literally that. And after work, they'd be like, do you want to go get a beer? And I was like, no, like I don't drink beer. But so it was really tough for me, but I was also happy because I was already in the Bay and I started making some friends. There's a good network in San Francisco. And while I was there, so now we fast forwarded, right? So we're in fall 2014. Does anyone know what happened in fall 2014? It was just his birthday. Keep going. Yes, Mike Brown was killed in fall of 2014. So I'm from St. Louis. I'm in San Francisco. Mike Brown was killed, and lots of stuff was happening, right? So it was that Saturday. I remember it vividly. It was a Saturday, and I go online. I see it on my Twitter feed, and I see it on Facebook because I see all of my friends from St. Louis are there, and they're going out into Ferguson, and there's starting to be some buzz. And then I see my San Francisco and Bay Area friends, and they just have no idea. They still haven't been connected to it, right? And then I wait a few days, and a lot of the mainstream Black media companies, Essence, The Root, they hadn't covered it yet. So Saturday, they waited until Monday, for whatever reason, to start covering it. And then a week and a half, 2 weeks later, after some of the riots happened and fires, then mainstream media started covering it, right? I get emotional because it pisses me off. So that's when I quit, because I was like, this is a problem, and we have to fix it. There's information asymmetry. Black people have huge buying power. We're a huge demographic. We're a growing force in America. We influence culture. And I and my team felt like we had the unique capabilities to fix this, right? So a few months prior to that, we had started Blavity. It was not doing well. I prematurely quit. And yeah, which I'm happy to talk about that struggle too, but I just want to get you guys the baseline so we can start asking questions. So I quit my job, no benefits. My parents were like, what? And started Blavity, started working out of my apartment in San Francisco. Did that for, up until 6 months ago. And now we have our first office, which is in LA, and yeah, super excited, thank you. So now instead of living and working in my apartment, I work next door. My office and my apartment are next door units. I'm all about efficiency. So so that's a little bit about who I am, how I got here, why I'm here today. I want to open up the floor because I know a lot of you guys have questions. I also want to encourage you guys to use a hashtag because we can check the hashtag, especially if there's stuff going on, and also it's good. Yeah, I'm getting a thumbs up back there. And yeah, I'd love to hear about what you guys are working on. If you have specific questions about bootstrapping, we just raised our first round of funding on N500 startups. If you have questions about teams, there's so many things. So I want to go in the direction that's helpful for you. So I'm going to stop and let you guys raise your hands. Go ahead.
So you said when you quit, you had already started Blavity. Can you tell us just about the beginning of when you started Blavity, what kind of what brought it?
Right. Sure. So the question was, can we talk about the beginning of when Blavity started? So yes, Blavity started as a video newsletter. So I knew that I wanted to help people tell stories. I looked at the trends. I knew that Black people over-index in watching television and going to the movies. And I knew that visual storytelling was something that was really accessible to people because literacy isn't always high in certain communities, right? So I started a daily newsletter similar to what you would think of like Upworthy, right? Where they're curating videos and they're uplifting the things that are the best.